This is Straight Talk with it the Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shanan Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fann, the Preacher Man.
Well, welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and my co-host Shanan Jones will not be with us today. You know, Shanan went on vacation last week. I did. He had family reunion, and Big Papa has a little baby, so he's recuperating, you know, and he and his wife. And listen, just pray for Big Papa, won't you? He'll be with us next week. Well, this week, this is a exciting program. You know, so much is being said about Donald Trump. Is he going to jail? Is he not going to jail? Is the Republican Party is going to stick with him? Or will he win the nomination? All these things are being said. Whether or not this country is going to come back together after Donald Trump. Well, it's more information is going to be shared today, and I want you to weigh in on with your opinion. We're going to have Judge Looney, who is a former U.S. Supreme Court appeal judge, who's going to be talking today about the Republican Party. Remember, he testified during the January 6th hearing. Also, we'll hear from we'll have an audio of former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's talking about Donald Trump and how we need to pull this country back together. And if he was president, if he could have ran for president because he's not a U.S. citizen, this is what he would do. Well, he's on the Chris Wallace show. You'll hear the audio with he and Chris Wallace. Then you'll see several different individuals talking about Trump's going to jail and the Secret Service and what should and could happen. So don't you go nowhere. You stay right here with Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man. Now, catch you on the other side with Judge Looney after Miss C. Miss C?
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast. Hey, Greg. Hey, Pastor Shanan. Hope you all are doing well. And I hope all of our viewers out there are doing well as well. I say that every time. Anyway, Elder Charles Ransom is having a big celebration of his 70 years of life and 20 years in radio broadcasting, September 15th and 16th, 7 p.m. at Church of Atlanta Lighthouse. That's 1380 Boulevard in Southeast Atlanta. The guest speakers include Bishop Eugene Taylor on the 15th and Bishop Alfreda Young on the 16th. Bishop Timothy McKibbins is pastor. There will be guest choirs and guest churches joining this celebration. Congratulations, Elder Ransom. Elder Ransom is a good friend of mine from the radio station, and I tell you, he is such a bundle of joy. Anyway, the women of Flipper Temple AME invite you to their Women's Day kickoff breakfast, August 19th at 9 a.m. A delicious menu is planned, and I'm telling you, it is a delicious menu. And Flipper Temple is located at 580 Atlanta Student Movement Boulevard in Southwest Atlanta. To get full details, call the church at 404-522-5020. The Women's Day celebration will be held September the 24th at 10:45 a.m. Reverend Gregory Eason is pastor. There's going to be an appreciation celebration honoring our own Bishop Greg Fann Sr.'s 51 years in ministry and 43 years as pastor at Liberty International Church, 1362 Metropolitan Parkway in Southwest Atlanta. It's going to happen Sunday, August 20th at 10 a.m. Call 447-546-7546 to get more details. Greg, if you're celebrating 51 years in ministry, that makes you how old? Anyway, listen, I'd like for you to do 4 things for me. I'd like for you to subscribe, to like us, to leave comments, and to share us. Don't keep us to yourself. Let everybody know about Straight Talk News, okay? And listen, I want to send my condolences to everyone out there that's having you're going through a time of bereavement, and to let you know that God is there to aid and assist and comfort you, and just to lean on Him, lean on Him, lean on Him, because He will help you through this difficult time. All right? And listen, until next week, in the meantime and in between time, may the Lord God bless you real good. Bye now.
Well, Cynthia, you know how old I am because you and I went to the same classroom. We're in the same class. We rode the same bus. We're the same age. Boom, Cynthia, don't be trying to crack on a brother now. Listen, I tell you, Cynthia's absolutely right, though. Not about my age, but she's right about the issue in terms of how many years I have been ministering. It's 51 years and 43 years as a pastor. That I've been around a while. I've been preaching a while and pastoring a while. I've been preaching a while and pastoring a while, and I thank God for it. Listen, don't you go nowhere. You stay tuned. Now we're going to hear from the former U.S. Federal Appeal Court Judge, Judge Looney, who's going to be talking about the Republican Party, why Donald Trump should never have been president, and how the right and the left, the Republicans and the Democrats, need to come together to put this country back on the straight and narrow path. Don't you go nowhere. You stay tuned.
I want people to remember, Ms. Starcher, you're a Democrat, Judge Ludig, you're a Republican, and you're working together on this. This is very bipartisan. Judge Ludig, we will all remember when you testified before the January 6th Commission and you called Donald Trump, quote, a clear and present danger to American democracy. He is now 3 times indicted, potentially 4. He is by far the Republican frontrunner. Do you think he is still a clear and present danger to American democracy?
I do, Poppy. More so today than he was last summer when I testified before the Congress of the United States for these obvious reasons. The former president has continued to insist and persist in his false claim that he had won the 2020 presidential election and that it was stolen from him. And his Republican allies and the Republican Party have joined him in that persistent claim to this day. So for the 2.5 years since January 6th, these false claims have corrupted American democracy. They've corrupted American elections, and they've corrupted the perception of the American people in America herself. This must come to a conclusion, and the trials of the former president now will become, together with the events of January 6th, the singular, infamous events in American history, whereby a former president of the United States, for the first time in American history, is prosecuted and tried for grave offenses against the United States of America, at the same time that he is running again for the presidency of the United States as the presumptive Republican nominee for the presidency.
Judge, you told our colleague Jamie Gangel after the latest indictment came down last week, these are as grave offenses against the United States as a president could commit, save possibly treason. Just to remind our viewers, you are a conservative's conservative. Trump is winning by a mile in the polls. Republican officials are lining up behind him. What do you think has happened to your party?
I'm not a political person, Poppy, and frankly, I don't care about the Republican Party at all, except to the extent that the two political parties in America are the political guardians of democracy in our country. American democracy simply cannot function without two equally healthy and equally strong political parties. So today, in my view, there is no Republican Party to counter the Democratic Party in the country. And for that reason, American democracy is in grave peril.
Boy, that was telling, wasn't it? Wasn't it telling? Oh boy, I tell you, Judge Looney laid it on them. And you know, they're trying to put together a bipartisan committee to deal with this stuff, to how we're going to bring this country together. Now let's hear from former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, won't you? Arnold Schwarzenegger on the Chris Wallace Show. And we'll be back after he gives his opinion, and then we'll have many, many opinions about him going to jail. Boy, and what the Secret Service may or may have to do or may not have to do.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, welcome. It's great to talk to you again, and I want to start with the basics. Do you prefer being called Governor or Arnold?
It makes no difference to me. I get called anything and everything. You know, when I go to Sacramento, they call me the governor. When I go down to Gold Stream, they call me Arnold. When I go to Austria, they call me Schnitzel or Kraut or whatever. I mean, so I get every title that you can think of.
Well, it's close between Arnold and Schnitzel, but I think I'll go with Arnold.
Exactly.
The Constitution said that a president has to be a natural-born U.S. citizen. If not for that, would you have run for president?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, I think the field was wide open in 2016, and I think the field is open right now. I mean, think about it right now. I mean, who is there that is really a person that can bring everyone together? Who is the other day that people say, okay, he's not too old, or he's not too this or too that, or this stuff? Because it's now a question about who do you vote against rather than who do you vote for.
So you're saying you would run for president in 2024?
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, because it's a no-brainer. I see it so clearly how he could win that election. I mean, it's like me in California when I was running for governor. It was clear that people are looking for some new answer, not a right wing or a left wing, but someone that can bring the nation together. There's just so many things that need to be done and can be done. And what makes it so wonderful is because it's doable. It's all doable. All it needs is just people coming together and saying, yes, we can do it.
You've put out some videos in recent years that I want to ask you about. You put out this video right after the insurrection on January 6th. Take a look.
Wednesday was the day of broken glass right here in the United States. The broken glass was in the windows of the United States Capitol. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet.
Now, the night of broken glass, or Kristallnacht, was in 1938 when Nazi sympathizers ransacked Jewish stores and synagogues and schools. Do you still think it's fair to compare Kristallnacht, the Nazi attack on the Jews, to what happened on January 6th?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is, of course, a different time and all that, but it is kind of like a threat to democracy and a threat of what happens to people when they're lied to. And this is why I compared it to that, because in Kristallnacht, and I know with my father, who was part of the Nazi party, they were lied to. They were misled. And I think a lot of people in America today are being misled.
But
this is the part we've been waiting on. If Donald Trump goes to jail, what's going to happen? Is he going to go? That's a question. But if he goes, is he going to have Secret Service? Where is he going to be housed at? You know all about that. You stay tuned. Don't you go nowhere. Listen to these opinions from former FBI assistant, FBI director, from lawyers, and from Poppy and her guests. Don't you go nowhere, because Poppy was a former FBI agent. She's going to tell you all about it. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial, and do share with your friends and family and tell them we're on the air because we care. Straight talk.
Issue, Richard, about whether or not you could put a former president with Secret Service detail in a prison. I offered a solution the other day: put him in solitary confinement, and then he won't have exposure to general population, and then he won't be a safety risk, it won't be a security risk. I mean, I think it's absurd to think that you cannot put somebody who ends up going through the process, who's convicted and sentenced. I think it's absurd that you put him on anything but a federal penitentiary where he deserves to be. Again, we do not treat him differently than we do any of us. If we were prosecuted, Richard, and we were sentenced, and we were having to do the time, we should do it exactly where everybody else has to do it.
Danny?
Just about the sentence alone. If, for example, he's convicted of obstruction, just a quick look at the sentencing guidelines. You don't look at the maximum sentence. That doesn't really give you a good forecast. But just the base offense level has him at about 15 to 21 months. That would be the recommended sentence. But once you start the add-ons within the guidelines, for example, did he substantially obstruct a proceeding? I wonder. Probably a judge would conclude if he's convicted that he did. Then the numbers start going up dramatically. You get up to 70 months to 87 months. And then keep in mind that if he's convicted on any of these other cases, he will not be a first-time offender, which is a major factor when it comes to federal sentencing. Federal sentencing is no joke. So in all likelihood, if he's convicted in either of these federal cases, he will be doing prison time. And I predict his attorneys will argue, and I get it as a defense attorney, they will argue for house arrest.
Do you think they actually sentence a former president to an actual federal penitentiary, or do you think it's something else they have to do because he's a former president and Secret Service actually has to go? No joke.
Yeah, I think I got to tell you, I think too much is being made. I keep hearing about, Secret Service has to be with him, and yeah, fine. But that's not going to preclude him from going to prison. I don't buy that at all. We have a prison. The federal system has a prison in Florence, Colorado, known as Supermax, right? Robert Hansen, the worst spy in FBI history, was there. The Unabomber. Unabomber was there for most of his sentence till he got sick and went to a medical facility. But the blind sheikh, if you remember him, was there. And so sometimes you're not there in Supermax because you pose a threat to others and a threat of escape, but rather because you're so sensitive that other prisoners would love to take a shot at you. And so that will be Trump. And my guess is he'll end up in Supermax or, some exact opposite, meaning a camp somewhere, a prison camp, which is on the low end. But Secret Service will have some limited presence. But if you really lock the guy down, like Supermax, if you think about it, you just need one agent when he comes out for a shower or an hour of rec time. That's it.
This needs a million caveats because obviously he hasn't been convicted of anything. There could be appeals, there could be pleas. I mean, there could be so many, we don't know what the punishment would look like either. But the idea that this is even something people are talking about, the idea of what this would look like, and given they have Secret Service protection for life, how would that work?
I really don't think it's going to be very difficult. He is going to a very secure location. So depending on what prison he goes, federal or state, because he's also being charged in New York through the state, Miami, D.C., they're charging him federally. So there's also a difference between the prisons. If you want to go to prison, you want to go to a federal prison, they're typically safer. State prisons tend to have more violent offenders there. So that's one thing. The other thing is they already have their own security set up. So Bureau of Prisons, let's say he goes federal, they've got their own system set up. It's already safe. You're actually looking at less manpower, less resources, less money, definitely less money for taxpayers. So when I see that, I see him going to an already secure facility.
Well, you heard from the governor, and you heard from those individuals who were in law enforcement, who were lawyers, who talked about former FBI agent, who talked about what may happen to Donald J. Trump if he goes to jail under these indictments. If he's convicted, what's going to happen? How it's going to happen? Nobody knows whether he's going to jail or not. Shanan don't believe he's going. I believe he's going, and I know he needs to go, because if law is for everybody else, it should also be for whoever, not just him, but whoever is the president of the United States of America. As Poppy said at the end, she said, well, you had prime ministers and you had presidents of other countries that went to jail. Why not Donald Trump? If he violated the law, if he broke the law, he's not above the law. No one is. If that's a true statement, then let's prove it by sending him to jail as he's found guilty. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man. And I'll catch you next week with Shanan E. Jones. And don't forget to share. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to make comments. And listen, don't forget to subscribe. Won't you join us each and every week right here on Straight Talk with the Preacher Man and Shanan E. Jones.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fann at FANN922 at Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shanan Jones and Greg Fann, the Preacher Man.